Hello, I am Courtney Granville, Director of Research and Scientific Programs at DIA. Today I am honored to welcome Brooke Casselberry to the media booth here at the DIA Global Annual Meeting 2022 in Chicago. And it has been such a fabulous celebration being here together. Really excited for this interview. Brooke serves as the Associate Vice President for U.S. Life Sciences Advisory and Consulting at NNIT Incorporated. And she's also a member of the program committee for the annual meeting.
That's right.
Brooke, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Would you please share with us what you do in your work for NNIT?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I want to say it's an honor to be here with you right now. So thank you so much for the invite and the opportunity to speak with you. DIA has been a huge part of my career and my development over, for the last almost 25 years. All starting back with being a part of the DIA communities, being a part of the regulatory intelligence community, being a part of the smaller meetings when it was ECTD focused and then document management focused, and then bringing that all together for RSIDM. So it's a really big honor to be able to be a part of the DIA annual meeting. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to meet some pretty incredible people coming to the conference, and after not being together for the last 2 years, it feels really nice to be here again. With NNIT, I've been with NNIT for almost 2 years now, a little bit more than 2 years now. And we have so much going on, so much growth potential that we are capitalizing on. And DIA also allows us to do this. In my role, I head up the Life Sciences Advisory and Consulting. So with my team, I have both advisors who are subject matter experts, have a lot of time in the industry and thought leadership, and really bring a lot back with pharmacovigilance, with safety, with regulatory, with clinical, and then digital transformation is one of the newest that we've recently added.
Wow.
And we're doing a lot of focus right now on training and OCM. One of the things that we're seeing a lot in the conference this year, and we've seen in past years before as well, is everybody wants to make a move towards being more efficient,
Yes.
being more effective, being faster and getting products to the market, having less demand on resources and laborious tasks and costs. And one of the challenges that we see that often kind of hinders this, it's not the intelligence and the foresight and the need and the want to do this, but it's that change management and acceptance of how it's going to impact people's day-to-day lives when they've been working in a particular way for so long. So we've been doing a lot of focus on change management and organizational awareness as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting to hear, because I think that the events of the last couple of years, coupled with all the innovation that's been coming down the pike, really is leading to kind of a sea change within our industry and within organizations themselves, including DIA. And I want to thank you for what you shared about your engagement with DIA over the years, because I may work for DIA, but really we are DIA. We do this together, and it's really through volunteers like yourself that are really dedicated to being a part of the conversation and figuring out how we can manage the change and create efficiency, because that is important. You really embody that, I think, through your work with DIA. So thank you for sharing that. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about what brings you here and how you're engaging with us at the Global Annual Meeting here in Chicago in 2022. We know that you're here not only to network and be a part of the conversation and attend sessions, but in fact, as part of the program committee, you also are chairing a session and you're moderating another. So first, you chaired the session titled Data Integrity Across the Product Lifecycle. Can you share a little bit about the topics that you covered in that session and why these are important today?
Yeah. So we are hearing about data integrity, data cleanliness. These are things that are repeated time and time again across the conference, but have been throughout kind of especially the last 10 years as we're going into this digital transformation and really trying to look at data first and data driven decision making opportunities. So when we talk about data integrity, though, it's one of those things that is, it has the facts built around it on, it's factual what data integrity is and what the intentions of it are across the product lifecycle. But there's also an area of data integrity that is a little bit objective or subjective. And when the presentation that was given yesterday, the three members that presented did a really good job of talking about data integrity across the life cycle, and both, when a product or a medical device is first conceptualized, knowing from that point right there in that moment when that product is developed, that the data has to be exactly right and it has to be perfect as it goes through the product approval pathway. Yes. We had a presentation on data audits and what happens whenever you are already manufacturing maybe a lot of products in a manufacturing environment or in a laboratory environment, and how do you pass audits and say, where has the data come from, the data that's been used to get that approval, to tell the patients that it's safe and effective and have their trust to be able to use your products. Yeah. Can you pass those audits? And then also it goes into supply chain. And we have witnessed that full force in the last 2 years on what happens in supply chain and when there's data problems, right? Like the supply chain, right? Look at the problems with the formula for babies. Yeah. And how hard that is on so many families, when something like this happens. And so the presenters really looked across the whole spectrum of a product from creation to once it's already on the market and how it continues to exist. Yeah. But the second part that is a little bit more objective, as I was saying before, is there's also a perception of data, right? So how do you prove and set without a doubt that the data is what it's intended to be, that it's sourced from what it's intended to be, and that it hasn't been compromised or changed based off of, an individual's own bias or cognitive bias throughout, from the time it's been created. Yes. And I think that's something that we're seeing, a lot of industry talk about, and and DIA gives industry the voice so that we can come up and we can share these stories with each other and say, well, how do we get better at this? What technologies can we do to make this so that we do have a strong perception, so that the patient population can use the products, and then can we take that information and take that data because we believe in it and have wider purposes or fit for the products that are on the market. I would like personally to see. I think it would be really nice if we can go into this conference in, a couple of years and talk more about like rare diseases, and can we have more focus on things that are hugely impactful for families and there's just not a lot of care, or I shouldn't say care, that's not the right word, there's care, but there's just not a lot of focus on being able to find that, because it's so cost and there's so much that goes into just getting a product that's not for a rare disease on the market. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, thank you for bringing this data topic to our membership, because I think certainly data and our ability to not only collect enormous amounts of data, but also to collect it in new ways from new sources using new approaches, digital approaches and the like. But we really do have to have confidence in the data, that it's reliable, because that's how we get evidence, right? Yeah. So I think really understanding those challenges and bringing awareness to the community about, where we need to be thinking about improving our systems so that, we don't run into the challenges that we did with formula.
Yeah.
Certainly. So.
And the track that I share with you guys is with DIA is for data standards and technology. Yeah. We're kind of focusing a little bit on clinical trials, but I think it's something that it spans more than just the clinical trials themselves, right? It goes into, again, like I said before, the post care, it goes into the supply chain, it goes into, what happens when it goes into your household. We are hearing a lot more now about like digital technologies,
yes,
which kind of leads into the second session that I chaired with the FDA that I was a moderator for. Actually, yes. Ethan Chin chaired it, but I moderated. But a lot of what the FDA is doing in their commitments to PDUFA 7 is looking at how can they be confident in getting approvals and using like real world evidence and real world data for digital technologies. Like for me, I wear an Aura ring. Some people wear the watches,
yes,
but it has all that information. Like I can tell when I sleep and I'm not sleeping very well and my heart rate is really high, and I'm like, well, maybe am I getting sick or is there something wrong? And being able to use that for a wider care.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think it'll be really interesting to see how data from these types of technologies gets integrated into the care continuum, because it's certainly a new way sort of approaching our own health and our ability to impact it, and also to create solutions that are more personalized because we will have more data on individuals through these sorts of things. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there's the common theme, right? And the common theme is it's all about the data.
That's right. It's all about the data. We need the
It always
evidence.
goes back to the data.
All right, Brooke. Well, let's take a step back and maybe look at the broader framework. We've been talking a lot about data generation, and the need for standardization across the life cycle, as well as being able to really understand data integrity. And we've talked a little bit about digital technology, which is really disrupting our ecosystem at the moment, especially around the collection of data. But it's providing an enormous opportunity, and it's an opportunity to be more circular with how we think about the use of data and we think about product development overall, because we now have the opportunity to really track what's happening in the real world and feed this data back into the cycle and our understanding of products. So what we're really seeing here is what we're calling the digital virtuous loop. And this is really obviously a simplification, but first, would you share your perspective on this topic and how our ability to collect continuous data in the post-market setting is impacting our ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So it's been kind of an age-old story anyway, and especially when we talk about the product development on the clinical phases. There's from bench to bedside, but now we're looking at bench to bedside and then back to bench again, right? So like you were saying, so once a product goes into a human being or is being as a medical device is used within somebody's household, how does that information, how does the data that gets developed as a part of that kind of phase 4 trial go back into this like expanded uses or new indications or patient populations that haven't been addressed before? There was maybe almost 4 years ago now, I believe, when the real world evidence guidance document came out from the FDA, and Pfizer participated in one of the pilot programs on it, and they have their product for breast cancer. And one of the indications that is for breast cancer in men that they hadn't really been evaluated because it's, again, a rare disease. It doesn't happen very often. So, but there was enough off-label uses of it that doctors had prescribed, and so they were able to take that as part of the real-world data, resubmit that to the FDA, and then the FDA was able to evaluate it, and then without a doubt, they were able to pass it as safe and as effective. And now it's it's considered a labeled use for men that have breast cancer. And these are the kinds of stories that really show the proof of digitization and bringing that information back into the product development.
Yeah, that's such a good example of the impact that real world data can have, and really creating efficiency in our system.
Yeah, if we can get to where we are connecting all of the development, so here, and like we said, we talk a lot about clinical, especially this year, and what has been going on in the last 2 years. It really takes a lot of it back to decentralized clinical trials and and home care and doing remote servicing for patients. But if we can get to a place where we're really connecting all of that information and all of that data to what is happening in like the electronic health records,
Yes.
and more on the commercial side of data when it does get into the payer's hands and it gets into with insurance and commercialization and such, I think when we get to that place where we can connect those two pieces, then we'll really get to see true efficiencies.
Yeah,
and
drive more
sciences.
value. Yeah.
I think we're a ways away from that still.
So one of the topics in the session that you moderated focused a little bit on cloud technology.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you could talk about it at length, but could we focus maybe a little bit on the important aspects of cloud technology, and particularly how they help to drive this digital virtuous loop?
Sure. So cloud technology has been around for a little bit. So it's nice to see that it is being adopted. And in the session that you're referring to is with the FDA.
Yeah.
So the FDA is doing their digital transformation. And one of the things that they're looking at is removing or having less burden on-premise systems, which is laborious to maintain. It has duplicate data. They're often not integrated with each other, so it's not sharing information. Where cloud technology allows as SaaS, so that information can be shared across different functional areas. It's easily accessible, and just provides that much more efficiencies again, so that the FDA can and members of the FDA can use more of their time on intellectual activities and less time on making sure that they're rebooting their system because the database failed for a moment.
Yes.
Like things that we don't want to be dealing with anymore in this day and age. What I am really looking forward on seeing is what both the health authorities and the industry, and what we can do to really make that, take that technology to the next level. So we get to where we can do consensus sharing of information and data, so that we can do it in a way that it's with a true collaborative and safe way of saying, I have some information on this particular product that I want to share with you.
Yes.
But I don't want anybody else to see it. This is specific for you and I. We're going to share this across, and being able to have that collaborative review of that information, because it is in a cloud technology, it is in a SaaS environment, and we should be able to do that in a safe and secure way. And I think that's something that still we're just not quite on yet, and that's going to go a lot more. We'll hear more about cybersecurity, because we have to make sure that it's not compromised in any way.
Absolutely.
But I think cloud technology is really just kind of a baseline framework that is going to allow a lot of other technologies and innovation to be more useful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can see how cloud-based technology could really add a lot of efficiency by allowing parallel review, or allowing people to work when it's convenient for them, or where they are.
Yeah.
But you certainly raise good issues around the privacy concerns that need to be addressed.
Yeah. I mean, and we also, speaking for myself, I'm not getting younger. I'm getting older, so I don't think my time on being on the how much more time that we have is not, it's not endless.
Yeah.
So we have to be able to set up our environment so that this next generation that's coming in and is going to be picking up where we're leaving off, that it's an environment they're used to working with, and they have been working with cloud technology in their hands since they were born.
Yes.
So for them, it's going to already have to be like that. Things have to be accessible. It has to be at their fingertips. It has to be something that they can react with very, very fast. Or they probably will find other industries to work in, So we have to take that into consideration and be prepared, for that next generation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. It's basically, future proofing in a way.
Yeah.
And thank you for bursting my bubble here. I thought I was getting younger
I know.
day by day.
I try to tell myself that.
The last thing I wanted to ask you about is what new developments our viewers can expect to see in data integrity, cloud technology, or in a related area in the coming years. What's on the horizon?
I mean, I really think the consensus sharing of information is going to be really big. I mean, there's challenges on that with the GDPR and the regulations from GDPR that creates kind of some limiting factors that people are going to have to be pretty innovative on how to work through that. But if we can get to a place where we are really doing collaborative review and collaborative authoring and collaborative sharing of information, and we're doing it in a way that is secure, and there's technologies that are the blockchain type technologies that are available that I think we just aren't really capitalizing on right now. Yes. But I do think we'll start to see more of that.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Brooke. It's
really thank you.
Such an honor and pleasure to get to talk with you about these topics, and
Same.
look forward to seeing what the future brings.
Yeah, thank you.